All right. Well, hello, friends. Welcome back to SerenityOS Office Hours. It's Friday. It's been a while, but we are going to do what we usually do on normal Fridays, which is to talk about SerenityOS, programming, and all of the related subjects around those things. And of course, YouTube is nice enough to tell me to insert an ad right at the start of the stream, but let's not do that. So today is the first time I didn't have to ask people to let me know that the stream is working, because there's already people indicating that I'm live. Very nice, thank you. Hello everybody, hello Evolva, the literal definition. Mark, Linus, Lofty, Graham, everybody else, very nice to see you all. I have been slightly sickish this week, not very productive, but it's starting to turn around, so that's good. And of course, today is the last of the month, which means that I have to make the monthly update videos. So that's going to be coming out later today, and this is going to be a shorter stream so that I can get back to making the monthly video. But I think we can still get about an hour or so of quality time in here together. So if you're new to the stream, what we typically do is every Friday we just talk about SerenityOS and stuff like that, and you bring the questions, the topics, and we sort of just respond to whatever chat brings up. And yeah, since it's been a while since I was recording anything or streaming, I guess we can, like, I don't want to spoil the monthly update video too much, so I guess we can just boot up the system and see what it looks like. It's been, I think, a couple of weeks since I worked directly on Serenity myself, because I've been working so much on browser stuff, and now that we have Ladybird, you don't have to boot into Serenity to work on the browser, so it's kind of convenient to just stay here in this environment. But it is making me miss working on Serenity though, especially when I have any kind of problem in the stack underneath me. Because of course, if you have trouble anywhere in the stack on Serenity, you can just fix it, but you hit sort of graphics layer stuff in Linux, and now you have all of these opaque third-party things that you have to look through in order to understand what you're doing wrong. So I do miss that. Lofty says, finally a question. Lofty says, did you find any good tools for profiling on Linux? So I've been looking into that a whole bunch, and there are, as far as I understand, there are two good tools for performance profiling, and the first one is Perf, which leverages the Linux kernel facilities for profiling. So you can do something like perf record ladybird, and then we will go to google.com and close that out, and then we get a recording, and that recording you can then open with various tools. So there's, for example, perf report, which is a command line sort of curses tool, which I have not become comfortable with navigating yet. But I have also been using Hotspot a bit, which is a GUI that offers you a couple of different views onto the same data. And I like it better, I think, than the command line tool, although it still feels very like opaque, and it feels like information is not really surfacing so much. And I don't know, maybe I just need somebody to explain to me like what the typical workflow is, but it seems to me that it's not obvious how to use this to actually get valuable information compared to what you get with the Serenity profiling tools, which just present to you this super obvious visual representation of what the program was doing. At least that's my perspective. But having built a tool, I might have a bit of bias towards it. But I'm still learning these things. And in addition to Hotspot, there's also a whole bunch of different web tools, again, that you can use with perf. And I tried a bunch of them, and basically they're all just different ways of converting a perf output file to a flame graph. Linux people love flame graphs for some reason. I come from a heavy Mac OS, iOS background, so I'm more partial to the way that instruments represents profiles, but I'm sure flame graphs are nice once you get used to them, which I have yet to do. Lofty asks, does Serenity's profiler have a flame graph? Yes, it does. Somebody was cool enough to add a flame graph, and I've looked at it a couple of times, or every now and then, but I always feel like I can much more easily understand what's happening if I look at the timeline, and I filter with the timeline, and then look at the tree. But to each their own. I think I just need more experience with it. So here, since I don't have a choice, I'm gonna have to get used to this or build my own tool. We'll see. Let's see. Hello, Tobias. Nice to see you here. There's probably a tool called Perfume. Well, if there isn't, maybe we could make it. Jason says, how do you feel about MongoDB? I don't have any feelings about MongoDB. To be honest with you, I do not even know what MongoDB does. So let's quickly look it up. It's a document-oriented database program classified as a NoSQL database program. Uses JSON-like documents with optional schemas. I'm sure that's perfectly fine for many, many things. I have not had any use cases personally in the recent past where I needed any kind of database. So it's been a long time since I used the database or anything, but I have done extensive database programming in the past. Now it's been a couple of years. Let's see. Karudo says, does libjs support JIT? If not, are there any plans to implement it? There are no plans, one way or the other, for anything in the SerenityOS family of projects. Things just kind of happen when people decide to work on them. But about JITting, it's kind of my personal perspective that I'm not convinced that just-in-time compilation is a justifiable trade-off between complexity and benefit. And I know that it's sort of the typical thing for browsers to do, but I would like to explore just how much performance we can get without inviting dynamic code generation and increasing the complexity of our JavaScript implementation like tenfold or more, just to get faster. Because I think we are dangerously unoptimized at the moment in libjs. There are just absolutely naive things that we do, which we can stop doing. And there are very obvious, simple optimizations that we can implement. We just haven't done it yet. So it is my gut feeling that I would like to explore just how much performance we can get without dynamic code generation. And then only if there's like a major usability problem with the browser remaining at that point, then I would investigate JITting. So, and I feel kind of emboldened in this position by efforts like the super duper secure mode, which is a new mode in Microsoft Edge. So basically they are testing out, under the banner of security, they're adding a mode to IE or Edge where they don't JIT. And their argument is like, well, without the JIT, you have way smaller surface area for bugs, smaller chance of exploitation, and so on. And I like that idea. Anyway, so yeah, I'm very, very lukewarm on the idea of jitting, and we'll reevaluate once we run out of obvious optimizations we can do with that one. Let's see. Andy says, late to office hours. Ooh, did we find a decent profiler for Linux? Well, as I was saying, I've just been learning about perf and the various visualization tools. So Hotspot is one I've been using. I was also using pprof. It's a Google tool, which you can use it to generate a web page, and then you can use that web page to look at a flame graph. And then there's a lot of tools that give you a flame graph, is basically what I've learned. Let's see. Ted says, can you explain the C object pattern and also the pattern? Sure. So C object is, you're not going to find that? Okay. So C object is just a macro that expands to a couple of helpers. Basically, we want any object that inherits from core object, we put a C object macro in there, and it just expands to this. So it adds a couple of helpful functions. So it adds a function called class name to every class, and it also adds a helper called construct and a more recent one called try create. And the purpose of these is basically to simplify construction, because core objects and all of their subclasses are reference counted. So when you construct a new one, you have to take care to manipulate the initial ref count correctly so that you don't leak the object by leaving an unattended ref count on the object. So we generate these helpers, and you'll see code calling them all throughout the code base. If we look for, okay, cline find in files is not working well today. Where can I find some construct? Okay, well, they're basically auto-generated factory functions for core object subclasses. And the pattern, as you mentioned here, is this going to work? Is essentially the Singleton pattern. So it's just our name for the Singleton instance getter. And Singleton pattern is, less popular these days because people, if you say Singleton, then a lot of people will complain about dependency injection and testability and things like that. But it is something that is very, very convenient to use. So it has found its way into many parts of the Serenity codebase. And yeah, so some people call this instance, some people call it Singleton. We call it because there's one instance of the desktop class, so it's the desktop. That's what that is. Let's see. Pratish says, how to get started with kernel/operating systems development. Well, I don't know, honestly, what's the best way to do it, but I think the OS Dev wiki is probably the best resource for it. So let me link that to you. I'm sure you've seen it already, but they have very informative resources about getting those initial steps of a new kernel up and going. So if you don't know where to start, it's a pretty good resource. Graham says, Yacht question. Since Yacht transpiles down to C++, could it be used on embedded devices like Arduino? Sure. You can use Yacht anywhere that you have a C++ compiler that can handle whatever Yacht produces, right? So I think we require C++20 capable compiler just because of some of the things that we do in the standard library. So, but like both GCC and Clang can handle it. I don't know if MSVC can handle it, but you can easily get Clang on Windows anyway. So that's kind of what we do right now. Let's see. George RM says, hello, how are you doing? I'm doing fine, George. How are you? Glenford says, what's the latest on the SQL implementation in Serenity? That's a good question. I saw Tim working on it the other day. I don't know if that went in yet. Tim Pho. Maybe he doesn't go by Tim Pho here, actually. SQL. Maybe not yet. So I know Tim was working on the value class, and I don't know. The problem with the SQL library in Serenity has always been that nobody's using it for anything. So it doesn't have sort of natural client to drag it forward. And I think once we just find that one thing where having a SQL database makes a lot of sense, then that will sort of rapidly escalate the need for libsql to become better. And there are a bunch of use cases in the browser, for example, where it might make sense, like cookie storage, bookmarks, maybe history storage. So a bunch of interesting scenarios there. But at the moment, nobody's working on it other than maybe Tim Flynn. Though I don't know how active that is. Let's see. How do you say this? Juan? Juan says, do you have gym? I don't have my own gym, but I do have a gym schedule where I go to a local gym. And I'm actually going tonight. So it's kind of a hectic day for me because first now I have to stream, and then I have to make the monthly update video, and then I have gym at 10 p.m. typically. So a lot of stuff to do. Let's see. Linus says, will there be another developer interview video? Well, of course there will. Of course there will. I have a couple of people that have expressed interest. I don't know if I would call it interest, but have indicated that they may be willing to cooperate with me and make more developer videos. But it is, to be honest, it's been several weeks since I prodded anybody about that. So I do need to, I hesitate to say circle back, but I need to circle back to that whole thing. But yes, absolutely. That's something I really liked doing those. And it's fun to do live streams together with people, but the interactive element of having an audience present just kind of, I don't know, it reduces your capacity for deeper conversation, I feel like. And that's also something that really makes me miss the car talks compared to the streams. Of course, in a perfect world, I can just make all of these things and have infinite energy, but that's not always how mental energy works. Let's see. Andy said, on the subject of Yacht, have you discussed what to do about the unsafe CPP escape hatch if you were ever to switch to direct compilation as opposed to going through C++? Right, so the CPP inline C++ escape hatch is obviously a temporary hack that cannot work if we were to have native code generation for Yacht. And basically what that means is Yacht currently allows you to just inject arbitrary C++. If somebody hasn't seen that, let me just show you what it looks like. So where do we do something like that? Yeah, so it looks like this basically. So you can open an unsafe block, and within unsafe, you can do inline C++, and then here you can just put whatever C++ you want. And since we are a transpiler, we can just emit that verbatim into the transpilation stream. But we can't support this if we decide to make our own code generation backend, because that means that we would also need to support parsing and cogenning for arbitrary C++, and we are not going to build a C++ compiler into the Yacht compiler. That's just kind of silly. So it really is a temporary tool for hacks that we need while bringing up the language. At least that's how I look at it. Inksack says, "Oh boy, never caught a stream before. Admire you a lot, Andreas. Thanks for all the incredible stuff you do." Thank you for saying that. I am glad that you are here to catch me live. It's been too long since I've been live. Let's see. Christian says, "Is that SQL library like SQLite?" I guess it's sort of similar in concept. Yeah, it's like a local database that operates on files, and it has a daemon that you can connect to with a client library and then run queries. But I don't know SQLite well enough or libsql well enough, honestly, to compare and contrast the designs. But from a user perspective, they seem similar in concept to me, which like SQLite is such an obviously awesome tool, so it makes sense that we would have something with similar capabilities in our arsenal. Beeman says, "Hey Andreas, super inspiring to see you build your operating system. First time in my life I got interested in writing C++. I'm glad to hear that. It is interesting to write C++. I think finding any reason to get interested in low-level programming, whenever that happens to somebody, I'm a little bit happy, because I have this view of the world that people are getting into programming these days, and they're mostly exposed to web development and really high-level stuff. So whenever somebody looks underneath the cover and finds low-level stuff, it makes me happy, happy for the future, hopeful that that there will be another generation, then another generation, and so on, of nerds who take care of all the low-level stuff. Let's see. Vilmos says, "Hi, is that boy on your thumbnail you?" Yes, Vilmos, that is me. It's a long time ago, but it is me. I think it's from 1994 or 5 or something like that. So I would be like 9 or 10, I think. JCS says, "I miss your car talk videos." I miss them too. They were very nice. It's been a very long time since I've been driving by myself anywhere. And I was thinking just the other day that I need to come up with some reason to drive somewhere by myself sometimes, just so I can record some videos, because it is a nice format. Let's see. Tobias says, "Hi, I'm Tobias, and I'm a Serenity developer. I have not landed a single commit in the last half a year. At your service." Well, hello, Tobias. So I heard that next month is October, starting very soon, and I'm sure that they're going to do the Hacktoberfest thing again. So if you're looking to get back into the swing of things, October is a popular month to get into lightweight open source development, I've heard. Let's see. Glenford says, "It seems JT's Yachtness monster gives larger validation on the need/usefulness of Yacht. How much has this project reaffirmed your dedication to Yacht?" Well, it hasn't really changed my opinion or dedication to Yacht in any way, because I'm already fully committed to the idea that we need to explore our own safe systems language. But I guess it is validating, and it feels good to see that it's possible to build something like an NES emulator with the language without hitting too many major hiccups. Although there was a hiccup earlier like a couple of days ago, I guess, where It turned out that all of the overflow checking that we were doing on arithmetic was just killing performance in the NES emulator. So we ended up going with the same, slightly sad, but very justifiable default settings as Rust does, which is to like not overflow check every integer operation at runtime by default, only and do it in debug builds. I'm not super in love with it, but the performance difference was something like 3x, so it's very reasonable trade-off. But we'll see. I'm still very interested in finding ways to encode or finding ways to enforce better behavior in the presence of overflow issues. So it's not a closed chapter just yet, but we did have to change the default just to make the language fast enough to do stuff like CPU instruction interpretation. Sophia says, talking about databases, how do you determine whether a database should be used in a certain case? I never really got that. In web, it seems kind of habitual to use databases in the backend, but I haven't really heard these choices justified. So I am not up to speed on the reasoning for these kind of things, and I haven't built any complex enough websites to have a full picture of when it makes sense for a website to use a database versus when you can use something else. But if you just go by like basic common sense, there's probably some like complexity level, and you have to look at what kind of data access you want to do. So do you want to do complex queries where you combine data from multiple sources and then filter it in interesting ways, or do you want to do, well, yeah, like you need to look at how do you want to access the data? What do you want to do with it? And is that something that is very easy to express with a database? If your data is just like a blog, for example, I know people make blogs with database backends, but in those cases, it usually makes sense to use files instead. But I have to say, like, I'm not like up to date enough on this type of development to have any opinion really worth hearing. So I'm just gonna say, look at your data access patterns and figure out if a database makes it more natural to express the data access that you want to do. And then, of course, factor in the scalability of the prospective solutions and see, does this scale for the number of users I expect to concurrently be accessing my resource, and so on. Niels says, hey Andreas, thanks for taking initiative and creating something for the fun of it. The world truly needs more independent developers and software. Godspeed. I super agree. The world does need more independent developers and software and people just doing stuff for fun. And there's plenty of room for stuff like that, especially in software. I think we are living in a time where there's so much software, more software than ever before, but so much of it is sort of motivated by a desire to pick your pocket for pennies, and I think that's a little bit sad. It's nice when people make software just because it's fun, or just because they want to make something awesome or something useful. Thank you for saying that. Undefined says, what is the point of pre-kernel? So pre-kernel is a part of our bootstrap process, you could say. And it's a loader for the kernel. And it does stuff like set up the various data structures and memory management data structures that we need for the kernel to be able to boot. And something that it also somewhat recently does is set up kernel address space layout randomization. So let's see, random, where is that? Generate secure seed, blah, blah, blah. Somewhere here. RD ran. Yeah, okay. Well, somewhere in here, there's a thing that decides where we put the kernel. We put the kernel at a different offset every time that you boot, just based on a random number we get from the CPU. And it's like a nice little security mechanism because it makes, if you have knowledge about the kernel memory layout, on one machine that's running Serenity, it does not necessarily translate to another machine running Serenity because their kernels are in different locations. And that was something that we are able to do because we have a pre-kernel. So the pre-kernel, it loads the rest of the kernel, puts it into memory somewhere, and sets up all the memory management data structures and jumps into the real kernel. That's the purpose of it. I think most operating systems have something similar, but they call it different things. Let's see. Kane says, "Good day, Andreas. Just wanted to say thanks for the videos. They are some of my favorite content to watch while working. It's like sitting next to a smart colleague who likes to talk to himself." Right. Yeah, it is so weird to watch this type of videos of while working. A lot of people tell me that they put my stuff on and then they work. If I put on somebody who's talking, I get so distracted by what they're doing, and I just want to look at that, and I can't focus on my own stuff. But people are different, so I am glad that we can all enjoy different things. Let's see. Paul says, "Can you explain how signal capturing library works in Serenity? I was trying to solve 14429. 14429. What is that? Also, I don't know what the signal capturing library is either. Keyboard shortcuts are not captured by built-in terminal. Okay, so Ziki Fleeky says, when focused on the built-in Hack Studio terminal, keyboard shortcuts like Control-Z, Control-Z, and Control-C are not captured in the terminal, but are instead captured in the text editor. That's interesting. So I guess what they're talking about is if you are in Hack Studio, or IDE, and then you bring up a console, or I thought you would bring up a console. Can I get a terminal? Here you go. Okay, so if I run cat and then I wanted to Control-C, yeah, I can't actually Control-C here to break the cat command because I guess Control-C is captured by the text editor. Yeah, exactly. It becomes a copy command. That is definitely a bug. So I think the problem here is most likely that the scope of the copy action is too wide. Actions in Serenity have a scope. So you can scope an action to a widget or to a window, or you can make it application wide. And it seems like maybe these actions, like the copy action here, is window wide instead of specific to this widget. Because if I focus another widget and I press Control-C, I can see the copy button in the toolbar like animating, like I'm activating it, but it shouldn't be, it should not be window wide. It should be widget local. So I would expect that to be, might be the issue here. Let's see. Mark says, discard the programming socks and embrace the dev beard. Indeed, I am. It's I've been working on my dev beard a little bit, making progress, but still got a ways to go. Let's see. Nullputter says, dude, you look tired. I am tired, but it'll get better. Tim Schumacher says, time to add the Hacktoberfest tag. Can we do that? I'm not logged in. Wait, let me see if I can get a window here on the other screen. The Hacktoberfest. So I have to set a tag here, right? Hacktoberfest. All right, I guess I'm adding it. Go ahead. Fix our typos. Let's see. Isaltino says, do you know other wikis like OSDev for other things? Well, I know a lot of wikis, but not necessarily for interesting programming stuff. I know that I sometimes end up on the Star Trek wiki, like Memory Alpha, and Star Wars wikis, Dark Souls wikis, all kinds of wikis. But OSDev wiki is, I think, it's uniquely good within the programming space, or it's like a standout quality wiki, it feels like. Because there are many smaller programming related wikis, but I've never seen one that just covers a topic so well as that one does. Tobias says, I'll do almost anything for a free t-shirt. Cool. Let's see. Core says, have you looked at Herb Sutter's attempt at fixing C++ with his CPP front? Only briefly. JT was explaining CPP front to me, or talking a bit about CPP2 and what it's about. And I have not given it a proper look myself, so I don't have anything but superficial commentary on the whole business. But the one thing I will say is that it surprises me greatly that there's so many, suddenly there are all these different projects that aim to fix or improve C++, and none of them are like making safety their primary concern, which I find very surprising. It's like the one thing that I find more important to fix about C++ than anything else. And I guess that just shows how disconnected I am from where C++ is going. And that's not to say that I know that these various C++ progression projects are, they have safety stories and safety tracks, but as far as I can see, nobody is making it their primary concern. And that's a little weird. A little weird indeed. Let's see. Oh, Mohit, thank you for joining the yak herd. Very much appreciate that. Enjoy the golden yak and other emotes. Thank you for the support. Let's see. Smiley Coyote says, is there a dark mode for SerenityOS? There are a couple of different themes you can use. So one is called Dark. This is the one I made right after we added theming support. I'm not super happy with some of the colors, like the menus look kind of awkward. I need to revisit this and polish it up a little bit so that it can look actually good. That was more of a proof of concept than anything, but there are a bunch of different themes that you can choose from. So there isn't a dark mode, but we do have themes, some of which are dark. And now that I say that, maybe it would be nifty if this list would be sort of divided into light and dark themes or something like that. Anyway, Lofty says, I'm not having any luck with running the Serenity profiler. One of the internal checks is failing. Well, let's try something. Profile browser, or I guess profile, wait, how do you do that again? -C browser. Okay, let me close it. Did that make a file? It made a file. Can I open it? Permission denied. What on earth? Oh, wait, it's owned by root. Oh, that's definitely not right. Seems like I have been away from this for a little too long, and it's time to come back and fix some bugs. All right, so what if I am root? Can I look at it then? Is error. Oh, there's just so much breakage. Why can I not do that as root? Oh, it's probably because I cannot access the Windows system sockets and stuff, right? Because now there are user-specific sockets in temp user UID portal. And I think if I try to run any GUI program as root, it will just fail because root doesn't have its own thing. But what if we just super hack it by making like a fake one, a symlink, like that? And can I look at the file? Yes, I can. Okay. Yeah, so it's a bug in the must have been several weeks ago. So it's probably a kind of old regression, just nobody's fixed it. But basically there were these patches to introduce better support for multi-user desktop. So every user now gets their own directory in temp user, where we put all the different sockets for daemons. But that breaks the scenario where if you are root, you just want to use sort of the current session sockets for some command. And yeah, we can work around it by making a symlink here called 0 for the root UID, but that's a pretty gross hack. We should definitely fix this in a better way. Anyway. Yeah, so that's a way you can work around it. And then maybe your problem also is that your file has goofy permissions and you just need to chmod chown it. Let's see. Facebook says, we'll make a version of SerenityOS for mobiles. I have no idea. We'll see. Network exception. Hello. How's it going? Network exception says, hey, Andreas, is there a chance you will be at FOSDEM 2023? I have no idea. That's so far into the future, and I don't have plans that far ahead. I have plans 1 month ahead right now in my personal life, which terrifies me because I don't usually plan that far ahead. Ask me when it's closer. Andrew Castor says, would you rather fight 100 ladybug-sized yaks or 1 yak-sized ladybug? Definitely the 100 ladybug-sized yaks. The 1 yak-sized ladybug sounds like it would be a terrifying thing. Eros says, you were quite harsh on the person who said they could not land a commit in 6 months. I was harsh on Tobias? Okay, well, I did not intend to be harsh to Tobias. I'm just happy to see him. He's a friend of the project, friend of mine, I would say, and I hope I did not step on your feelings, Tobias. You are, of course, welcome to do as much or as little work as you like on the project here. Let's see. Brian says, why isn't it possible to create an open source operating system but also engage commercially? There's a huge vacuum for reliable, secure, and elegant operating system in the market. It's probably possible, but I think there's just very little overlap between people who care about building good software and people who care about business and people who care about building a business out of it. Like, the people who intersect and are good at both of those things, those are few and far between. So you don't get that many attempts even at it, I feel like. And I'm not about to make an attempt either, I think. So, and I do care about making good software, but I'm just not very interested in business. Let's see. Sophia says, I can't even have music with lyrics when I'm reading or programming. Yeah, me too. It's just too distracting, right? But some people can just sit and listen to all kinds of stuff while they're typing words themselves, and it's so impressive to me. Let's see. The literal definition of bruh says, Google is making downloading free RAM, i.e. ad blockers, much less effective with Manifest v3. Any thoughts on this ad blocker? It seems to me like Google is, like they obviously have their own agenda as a business that anybody who is not wearing like Google colored glasses can see that Google is a business and they're trying to make money, and their business works in in a specific way, and they sell certain things, and that's where they make all their money. So in the long term, they're always going to move towards whatever whatever makes sense for their business. And I think it is nice of them to give away software that is useful for everybody, but when taking software from somebody who asks for nothing in return, I think it's important that we're always a little bit suspicious of what they're up to. So I guess those are my more general thoughts about Google. Let's see. So Krister says it's above 90 degrees on my chip. Might want to invest in some cooling. Indeed, that is really spicing up here. I don't know why it's so getting so warm here. But let's go ahead and maybe shut down QEMU. Normally it does not get that hot, but yeah. Thank you for calling that out, by the way. Let's see if it cools down. Concerning. M9 says, LOL, C++ has tons of safety features. It's more like novice programmers don't use them. Yeah, I mean, of course, C++ has a lot of good features that help you write more safe programs, but it is not a safe language. Like, it's at the end of the day, it's not going to prevent you from expressing bad behavior. And given the choice between a program that allows you to introduce bugs and another language that does not allow you to express those bugs, there's immense value in having a language that just doesn't let you express the bug in the first place. Anyway, let's see. Glenford said, I wanted to profile Window Manager, but ended up giving up. Well, you should be able to get it working with the hack that I did, just creating the symlink. So try that out. But if you're still having trouble, just come by on Discord and we can look at the specifics. And Ixilom joining the Yak Herd. Thank you very much for the support. Enjoy the fancy golden yak. Electric Milk. Sup, Brandon? Electric Milk says, for native code in the future for Yacht, there is no plan. Indeed. But would you like to use LLVM or some other intermediary? Well, I think for me personally, I would rather look for something other than LLVM if one day we want to generate native code, because LLVM is really good at optimizing and really bad at doing it quickly. So it seems to me an observation that is made again and again by every new project that tries to use LLVM as a backend for anything, that it produces great code, but you wish it would do it way faster. So I think for me personally, like I would love to have a fast compiling language. C++ is not a fast compiling language. Yacht is not yet a fast compiling language, and since we have control over the whole language, it seems silly to tether ourselves to any kind of backend that would just prevent us from ever being fast. So for that reason, it seems more natural to me to one day build our own backend for something like that. But at the moment, we're so far away from that you know, we can only speculate. Let's see. Ixilom says, formerly known as TomTom. Oh, is that Tommy Tomastini? Was that your name? I rather enjoyed all the Toms in that name, but Ixilom it is. Stuffy says, what kind of allocator are you using in Serenity? We are using a whole bunch of different allocators. So depends on what you're asking about specifically. We have if you're just asking about malloc, we're using pretty simple a map-backed malloc with size classes and chunked blocks. And in the JavaScript engine, we are using a garbage collector, which has a similar data structures to the system malloc, but obviously works a bit differently because of the whole garbage collection thing. But all of the allocators in Serenity are homemade. There are no imported allocators. So I don't know specifically what you're interested in knowing about them. Mark says that I said, let's see if it cools down, and then it immediately went from 87 to 101 degrees. Yeah, it's going a little so-so with the cooling down here. Maybe I can just exit a couple more things. Seems to go up when I do that. I don't even know if this thing is accurate though. Like, there are so many different sensors, and I have to admit, I just kind of picked one of them. Let's check the chip. Yeah, chip. Oh no, I thought that was going to be lower. 80. Okay. I mean, between 68 and 68 and 86, it's fluctuating. We'll see. I do have cooling in the machine. It's just, I've never had this temperature thing up while streaming before, so it is interesting to see how warm it actually gets while I'm streaming. Let's see. MSCLRHD says, Fabrice Ballard's TCC as the backend. If we were generating C, then using a C compiler as a backend would probably be pretty fast. I mean, C compilers tend to be fast, which, you know, it makes sense because the language is very simple. But at the end of the day, it's still a SerenityOS project, and we build everything ourselves. So importing any kind of third-party thing or using some ready-made solution is just not really our style. So just we're probably going to do what we always do and just build something. Let's be honest. As Andy says, is a compiler toolkit the next Serenity project? I don't know, but it does seem a little bit on brand, doesn't it? Shantanu says, LLVM might be slow, but it allows you to use Clang Analyzer. No? Well, I guess, but I don't really need to use Clang Analyzer. What is Clang Analyzer even? I don't know which one that is. Yeah, the person with the very confusing name here says, selecting a less hot sensor is a solution too, right? Yeah, then I don't have to actually see the high number, because I don't even know what that sensor was. At least core 0 is something I can understand. Clang Static Analyzer. Right, so there's, let's say, I don't really know why I would want to look at Clang Static Analyzer for the generated code, because we take Yacht and we generate this convoluted mess of C++. And then trying to run static analysis on that seems like it would be very confusing. So I'm not, that seems like something that has relatively low value. Valtteri says, maybe Yacht could transpile into some cursed form of C that could be then compiled really fast. Yes. That is, I mean, that is not entirely unreasonable at all. one of the big reasons that Yacht takes long to compile is because the C++ compiler is slow. Just using all of the templates that we have tends to really, I don't know what it is about C++ compilers and templates, but you give them some templates and they just take forever to figure out what goes where. And I guess it's a fairly complicated problem, so not knocking anybody, but it's unfortunate that it always ends up that way. So for that reason, I think, yes, generating something more C-like and avoiding template instantiation slowness in compilers is a viable strategy for improving Yacht compile times. The main problem occurs when you want to interop with our existing C++ libraries because they have already a C++ API, right? So if you want to pass a C++ vector template instantiation to from Yacht to some C++ code, then you have no choice but to actually generate the template code. If we're talking about like compiling stuff that's only used inside of a function in Yacht, then that could look like anything, you know? It doesn't have to use C++ internally inside functions. It's just when we are interfacing with C++ APIs, that's when we have to actually do C++ stuff. Let's see. Krister says, in regards of sensors, the package is CPU average, if I recall correctly. Oh, okay. Well, then maybe you should have that up. Maybe I can just enable all of them. Let's just turn on all the sensors. We'll get all the data. All right. Here we go. Maybe this will make sense to somebody. Linus says, what will come first? 1K contributors or 50K commits? That's a good question. I don't know how many we have of either of those things. Okay, so we're about 8.5K away on commits, and we need another 250 or so contributors. Well, I think probably commits is going to come first. I don't know about you, but there's pretty good velocity in the project. A lot of stuff happening, and at the same time there are people joining, so we'll just have to wait and see. Masood says, what do you think about Google Carbon? I don't really have any opinion about Google Carbon. I haven't used it enough to have an opinion worth hearing, so I try not to comment on things that I don't have experience with. Let's see. Arveens says, you used to make videos almost daily, and now there's either spurts of several videos in a series or just a video a week or two. What changed in your workflow that does not allow for videos anymore? I don't know that something changed in my workflow. It's just more a matter of headspace, I guess. I think I used to work on a lot of smaller things. Maybe that's the difference, really. And when I'm working on many small things, it's very easy to just say, oh, this small thing I'm doing here, I'm just going to make a video about that. And lately, I've been in this headspace of like working on something for a longer stretch of time. So spending like a week or two doing some big architectural refactoring, or now I'm I don't know how many days, like 7 days or something into a rewrite of the layout system in the web engine. And I definitely, I don't really have a natural way to take a long running task like that and turn it into this video format. So I guess I think of it as headspace, but it's more like the tasks I'm working on are much larger lately, which doesn't lend itself to that easy, like, oh, I'm just going to make a simple digestible video about this little thing, like carve out this little piece here. And at the same time, like I think there's also like a comfort zone component where I get kind of comfortable with just working on something, keeping my head down and focusing on something, and then not making myself uncomfortable by taking a break from it and doing a video. But at the same time, that's probably something that I would enjoy doing, and maybe people would enjoy seeing. So probably I need to challenge myself a bit more to do things like that, instead of just being too comfortable sticking to the one thing. Anyway, let's see. Ali says, nowadays Yacht's runtime is 30% of the total runtime when compiling Yacht itself. That's interesting. We need to make that faster then. The literal definition of bruh says, I've heard someone say this before, but Serenity's UI feels solid and dependable, while more modern user interfaces feel different. Do you think there's a way to get the best of both worlds? So you say they feel different, and I want to get the best of that world? What is the best of the world? You know, obviously I have some pretty strong personal biases, because you can see what kind of interface I'm building. But I think there's good stuff. There's tons of good stuff in every era of computing, but you do have limited space on your desktop, so you can only do so many paradigms at the same time. And I think at least that's what I've been trying to do with Serenity, is just picking and choosing the best things from the different eras, the different paradigms. And it's not really finished yet, but I guess, yeah, to your question, is there a way to get the best of both worlds? Sure. Yeah, you have to just mix and match and experiment and see what fits. Our approach with Serenity is to start with a base of an older system that was known to work really, really well. And then taking that base and then just adding like little things on top and seeing how they fit in, seeing how it works out, and experimenting that way, instead of taking a modern system and then trying to incorporate older concepts. Yeah, so I think it's possible to achieve something awesome that way. Let's see. Human says, this is a very weird question, but how much do you take your emotional state into consideration when deciding what to do? Do you have a logical philosophy or you follow, or do you rely on your gut? I don't really have a logical philosophy about what I do with my emotional state. Maybe I should. I think it's a gut thing at the moment. I'm not introspective enough to stop and evaluate my emotional state when making decisions. Some decisions, yeah, but like not on a daily basis. Maybe that would be interesting to look at. I think I just tend to follow my gut feeling. But it's an interesting question, though. I have to think about that. Okay, I need to get going actually, because I have to get working on the monthly update video. So we're gonna end the stream here. Although I will take this one last thing. A network exception said, I think seeing you rewrite the libweb layout system would be really cool, even if it's just a part of the work. Yeah, probably. I actually recorded like a 3-hour video of me debugging some issue, but I hated the video because I was mumbling so much and just going back and forth and not making progress for a long time. It was a really frustrating video. So I ended up not posting that. But if I have something that's like more focused, I guess, then I can turn that into a video. Anyway, I gotta go and make the monthly video, so look out for that later today. But thank you all for coming to office hours. I really appreciate it. Good to see you all again. And I'm gonna go get some airflow into that PC Indeed kit. And I will see you all next time. Bye.